Students and friends, teachers, welcome you today. Thank you very much. Thank you for waiting. I'm the moderator, CHEN Liangliang, and it's our great honor that we invite Professor Josephine Lam to give us a talk in Hong Kong here today. So the weather today is very beautiful. Before the talk begins, allow me to make a brief introduction about the speaker. I'm sorry that I have an allergy in my throat, so forgive me if I cough when I talk. Professor Lam is professor of musicology at the School of Music, Theater, Dance at the University of Michigan. He's a well-known musicologist and sinologist who specializes in the musics and cultures of Southern Song, Ming, and modern China. And he has widely published works on Songci, court music, Kunqu, and music culture of literati. And his latest monograph is Kunqu, a classical opera of 21st century China. And currently he's working on a monograph tentatively entitled Confucius Songs, a global music history of Chinese 诗乐 or poetic music. And so the topic today is on the PPT is about 诗经, the classic of poetry as 诗 or Chinese poetry and 乐. And he will take the case of Guanju as a case study. So Guanju, cooing and wooing, it sounds very beautiful. We all know that poetry is closely related to music in classical Chinese literature, but scholars and students of Chinese literature, usually we focus more on, when we study this text, we take a literary perspective. So I believe that the talk today will definitely bring us many surprises and inspirations. So we have a Q&A section after Professor Lam's talk. So although the presentation language today is English, but you can ask either in English or Chinese, so we can have a warm discussion. Okay, so without further ado, let us warmly welcome Professor Lam.
Thank you. Because the script is written in English, so I say, when Professor Chen asked me which language to say, I said, oh, just English. But actually, we can shift, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, so really an honor to be here. I'm not a Hong Kong U graduate, I'm a CU graduate, CUHK graduate. But actually, in the last 20 years, I think maybe 30 years, I have a lot more work with Hong Kong U than CUHK. Right. So first, I have to say thank you, Professor CHEN to invite me. It's really a pleasure. I love it. And then, of course, Dr. Liangliang, they invite me together and get me together. But the point is, I really have to thank you, my audience, because you are the guys I want to do this. I want to have a good dialogue with you and have fun, and because I think my topic is a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay. Now, then the topic, I'll explain it, kind of summaries that you can read about, talk more and add lib here, and then the important points are always written it out. So my case study, of course, I want to study the issue of Chinese culture, the interrelationship between Wen and Yue. Wen is text, culture, one later on I'll explain, is very complex. And then Yue is usually translates music, but later on you will hear that I really totally object that Yue cannot be translated as music, because Chinese Yue is a lot more complex than Western music. So because there are so many problems, and I find it very exciting, and as Professor Chen said, I'm working on a book on writing a history of Liangliang music from the point of global music history. So I use this case study, a complex of Qin songs and Qin Cao instrumental solos with titles that reference Guanju, and I like the translation by Xu Yuanchang, and he translates Guanju as cooling and wooling. And I like that, so I say that's why I use it. If you like that translation, not mine, I cannot take credit. It's good. the question that we can ask is, Chinese have always been continuously, since Confucius' time, reading, chanting, and singing CHEN lyrics. And we have historical records of that. And they use that, it's okay, that to express themselves, and if you use modern sociological, anthropological theory, then they are doing that to construct and express themselves, their personal and communal selves and cultures. Okay, so I turn up volume to 20.
Yeah, we should close the little window there.
That balloon.
Okay, okay.
We don't know how to do that.
So then the question is, why and how Chinese would sing the lyrics or chant the lyrics? And then what are the relationship between the verbs and the sound and performance, the wen and yue? And we all know that Chinese, the wen and yue is always very intermingled, very difficult to separate them. But for a theoretical point and just to understand what's going on, you have to try to separate it. So then the question is, why and how are verbal texts of the CHEN lyrics and the musical sonic realization, performance, discourse interrelated? I use these couple words together because if you just say the music is really not, it's way more complex than that. Music is not just sound, but also the performance involving sounds, but the sounds have meanings, and then the meanings is really not just singing, not entertainment, it is really a performance of the identities, cultures, and a discourse. So that's why I link it there. But later on, I will just say sound, wen, and yue. But these are very complex concepts. They are very elusive. So sometimes we really all have to know is which meaning of these complex words are we talking about analyzing. But that's the way to. So now I'll give you a simple, no, why is it? Yeah, anyway, so I'll give you a simple answer. Then later on, I'll say yue is, I would define it as a multimedia of self-expression, performance, and discourse. That's my basic definition of yue. And to study this kind of phenomenon yue, I think is to understand Chinese expressive culture and practices. So if you study it, we would have a good idea of how Chinese people sing, chant, and dance, and write poetry. But at the same time, why I find is so powerful is because if you know Chinese population, including Chinese diaspora, is roughly 1/4 of the world population. So how can we, by our conscience, do good music history or cultural history without referencing Chinese way of thinking about culture, thinking about music, and even though it's very idiosyncratic, but we have to incorporate these ideas to build up our more modern emerging models of global music history, global culture history. So because as you all know, the academic world is building a global big system, but many of those systems theories are driven by Western theories. And so my challenge is, how can you talk about your music history as global if you don't include Chinese perspectives and experiences? Maybe. Yeah, I know. Maybe we need a technician.
Oh, they can. Oh, can you hear me now?
请问一下线上的观众现在听得见吗？
可以啊，很清楚。
那就很好，也 OK。
OK，老师有很多人扫。
OK，
这是什么？
那个怎么不能光？哦，在这边吗
Just denial.
Just denial.
OK，
？OK，
I'm OK。
Sorry。
Good. Am I me? Okay, I'll go there. So then, so that is my argument, and you now know it. So then, as a methodology, then the question is, why do we choose Guanju or Cooling and Wuling? I mean, the answers are very easy because it's a really beloved song, lyrics. Everyone loves it, reads it one way or another since childhood, right? And if you read the text, it is very musical. Later on, we'll see that. Besides, it's historically very descriptive. So it really tells you a story, makes you think about how ancient Chinese kind of do love songs and are doing these courtship activities. And if you read it as literature, it's very poetic and very beautiful. The structure, texts are very clear. So that's the basic reason why it is a good choice to approach the issue of Chinese Wen and Yue, all these interconnections. And if we all know Chinese is a Shijing, is a Jing, that's why it's a Jingxue, it's a lot of historical, exegetical, and his analysis, the lots, and all through the centuries, there are lots of people explain what Guanju is, what Shijing is, how. So practically, you can name any topic, it's been discussed in one way or another. So that's why we have a lot of material to work with. And I can tell you the caveat is because I want to focus on from the Wen to the Yue. Of course, I'm a musicologist, so I give a little bit priority to Yue. And that's why I skip a lot of those Kaozheng, the historical texture, those I don't care. I mean, I think they've talked about it enough, so let's focus on the Yue part a little bit more. So I think fair is fair, right? So, but when we study this issue, we have lots of this material to work with. And what makes it even more fascinating is if you go back to history, there are lots of singing realizations of Guanju or Shijing songs from the Song Dynasty on. Many, lots of scores and things. So I'm going to go easy on that. But if I'm doing a seminar, of course, I can go with you, but that would take that long. Yeah. So there are lots of these historical additions, notations, descriptions. And in addition to that, what makes it really funny and fun, not funny, fun and all of, because right now there are many performances realizations of Guanju. It can be sung in a jazzy way, in a popular song way, ancient Chinese style way, lots of things. So it really tells you this song inspired Chinese people to sing and dance. So then the question back to is, what is in this song that makes Chinese people sing and dance so much? Maybe it's not in the song, but Chinese people like to dance and sing, just find an excuse and dance. So all this can go either way. So now, just to give you an idea, so my case study focused on Shijing songs with Qin songs and Qin titles. If you go back to Ming and Qing historical Qin notation, there are 58 versions. There's quite a lot. Huh? And then if you go to the website, go YouTube, you can easily find 50 or 60 versions. So it's very contemporary. It's very old, but at the same time, very funny. Now, I'm sure you know Guanju, but let's just review it a little bit, refresh your mind. I like Xu Yuanchong's translation very much because it makes it more, rather than translating like the old classical, is that this is virtue, poetry about female virtue, the concubine. We don't just make it a real love song. So Xu's translation is quite nice. And why don't we just focus about Riverside, a pair of turtle doves are cooling. It's making the guan rather than guan, the call of the osprey, which is the traditional classical translation. He just said cooling. It's very sonic. If you hear the word cooling, you can he almost imagine the bird cool. That's wise. And then it gets to the point. There's a maiden lady whom a young man's wooing. So one point why this translation I like it is even if in English you can practically chant it and rhyme. So you can say 关关雎鸠，在河之洲，窈窕淑女，君子好逑. You can do it Chinese, but you can also do it in English. By riverside pair of a turtle dove cooling. There's a maiden fair, whom a young man's wooing. So it's the rhyme, it brings out the musicality, sonic, oral attributes of the poetry. So that's why I like this. So and later on, you can say 3 stanzas or 5 stanzas, up to you, but it's very clear. It gives you a very good sense of where, when, how the people, the young men and the young girls, they are courting each other, and give you a sense of what they do, where they do, why they're doing. So that's why this, in my mind, why this song is so musical and poetic. And I just highlight the song by the Guan Guan. That is definitely the bird song. And we all know that bird songs is supposed to be very musical, right? I mean, Chinese people, if you want to say someone sings beautifully, so there's a, yin sheng is some Oriole song. So that's how we use the song. And the qin se, Chinese people compare the qin zither and the se zither as harmonious thing. So that is a musical sound, musical image of a musical orchestra. And then Zhonggu is really grand, more dance. So Qinse is more private, talking to each other. But Zhonggu is more banquet, a big sound. So that's why it's very musical and very poetic. Now, then we refresh our memory of what Guanju, how musical and literary as a text and as record for music it is. Let me just give you some definition of what I'm doing. Shijing, we all know, so we don't need to describe it. But the Shijing Xue is the Jingxue, how the classical canonic study of it has been very strong. But they don't talk about the music that much if you go. So that's why my study is a little different from that. So in order to highlight that the musical part of Shijing, you can call it Shiyue. That is the music, the vocal rendition or instrumental rendition of Shijing text. So there is a technique from Songdan and so on, actually from Yuan, end of Song Yuan period, there is a term called Shiyue. Technically, it means people singing Shijing text in a very ancient style, one word, one tone. That is called Shiyue, and if you read Song Shi, you can have a description of that. But I expanded a little bit. Shiyue, for me, meaning vocal music or instrumental music that is set to Shijing lyrics or evokes the Shijing lyrics. So that's why, because right now there are a lot more instrumental. And what I'm working out is the Shijing history, the Shiyue Shi. That's why I want to do that. Now, then in order to get that, I mentioned that so Shijing, of course, is text, is wen. But if we know that what's wen actually means a lot more than just words. It means rhetorics, how to say things. And from that on, you quickly know that when scientists say wen, it actually refers to culture and history. And how do you get to know culture and history, develop it, theorize it, is scholarship. So when you say Wen Yan, you can almost say that she's a xueren, right? So these are very elusive and links on. And then the most important is, as we all know as studies, Wen Yan, why they're Wen Yan, just because it's not because they know some words, but because they have an ideal, some low-free idea. So it always gets to the Dao, Xue. So that is why the Wen Yan. It's not because you know how to write, how to compose. It's because your Cao Shou, your attribute, your Dao, your De. So that's why the Wen actually gets all these a range of meanings. But of course, we are not talking about it all the time. Sometimes we talk about more technical. Sometimes we talk about more philosophical. So, and in terms of modern scholarship, we are so disciplinary and we're so divided. So when you talk about the literature, then you are the literature department. But you are talking about the theory, the idea, but you will be teaching in the philosophy department. But in Chinese, they're all the same. They're all in together. And then the words to that is the sheng and yin. For the Chinese, sheng is just sound. But yin meaning is more organized and meaning it has a meaning and social political implications. And yin is more organized. Sheng can be anything. So, but that's a basic Chinese. And one thing I want to highlight is that sheng in Chinese mind or Chinese experience, actually in any culture, sheng is never just sound. Because you cannot hear or make sound without your ear, without making instruments, without specific time and thing. The sound, theoretically in contemporary people's mind, just sound. But if you really think about it, it's never just sound. It's always more. It was always more than sound. So that comes into the Chinese way, the yue. Yue, as I said, I don't think is equivalent to music. Music in the Western world is very Western and Westernized world is a piece of music, meaningful with a notation, someone composed it and maybe commodified, so you can sell it, buy it on CD. So that's very specific. But if you use that model to understand Chinese yue, you really don't find it a lot of problem there. But so it's easy to say yue is the Chinese mind's multimedia work, activity, performance, and discourse. So the sound is an important part of it, but it's never just sound, and it's never just word. Even though Chinese people, when you talk about yue, they always talk about the wen part of it, but not talk about the sheng part of it that much. The musicians, when they talk about yue, they talk about the sound part of it a little bit more than the wen part, but they're always there, and it's not very easy to separate. So that's how I define it. Yue, when I say yue, is really much more multiple. And Chinese, as you all know, when they say yue, is never just an entertainment. It involves some kind of political, social meanings and some kind of ideals. And it's a good word about it, you know, is the ya yue and su yue. Any music they like, they think is good, is called ya. Anything music that's not mine, I don't like, is su, right? So the Chinese people, one word they can just cut your music down. Just one word, they will cut you down, you know. But it's hey, your music 很雅. Oh. So the Chinese are very economical but very powerful with these words. Okay, so those are my definitions and talk about it. Now, in order to understand what Guanju has one meaning, you cannot just listen to the text. You really have to know, if you are following the tradition, you have to know all the cultural, historical memories about this text. So we can find a lot of it. So first we say shi, as I highlight this 芒氏大序, is very, very important because this is what I'm saying. This is the basic Chinese aesthetic of how to connect from wen to yue. So because it says 智所至, 智发言为诗, so if you have something in your heart, some emotion in your heart, you say it out. So it's from the qing, 智 to the wen to the yan. And if the yan is not enough, then you lament it, you chant it. And then if that is enough, 用之歌之, then you chant it and sing it. So the Chinese are very smart at this, moving from the real textual reading to more vocal, simple vocal to more elaborate vocal. And if that's still enough, you can dance it. 武志道志. So that is the high, I think it's a very powerful aesthetic and theoretically very powerful way of expressing these relationships from wen to yue to sound. So that's that. And if we go back a little bit more, there are quite a lot of this. Of course, we look at Shi Jing as Confucius, standardized by Confucius. So in the 论语, there are lots of it. 心与诗, 礼与礼, 成与乐. It's simple, but you can understand literally and literally. So shi is rhetoric, how it starts from there and then somehow goes through rituals, activity, action, but somehow everything gets comprehensive, gets getting to the ideal part through music. So music is, or 乐 is very, very powerful. So when it's not enough by itself, 诗 is not enough by itself. It has somehow get to the 诗, get to the 乐 level. So I mean, this idea comes from the big man, the Confucius himself. So we have to trust him. And of course, then what is 乐? Then also from the 论语 is very good. 乐云曰有钟鼓原何在? What is music? Is it just striking the gongs and things? So Chinese people have always practicing that music is never just how you play well, beat the gongs and drums. No, it's way more impressive. But of course, if you interpret this in Chinese moral history, then say, oh, the 乐 is 乐 because it has moral, 人什么道, so you can do it that way. But for me as a musicologist, then I say, what it makes 乐 it's not just 钟鼓, it's because there is a skill. There's a sound memory. You use the sound to communicate yourself, to negotiate with your people. So there's artistry. What you make the sound or performance, the 乐 in this way and that way, has meaning. And that's why from my musicology point of view is I want to ask later on, you see, how would the 乐, a particular sound, particular movement, reflect a particular verbal meaning? I would go back and forth from 文 to 乐 and 乐 to back to 文 to see how they are related. And that's my try. Now, if you really like philosophy and broad scope, that's fine too, because Confucius also said in the 十二篇 is 智与道，具于德，义于仁，有于义. That means, for me, that's why the part I like is you can get to all these things by engaging with the yi. Now, we know that traditionally Chinese people, like Renyan, particularly they kind of marginalize or suppress the importance of yi, the art, the artistic performance part. But this says, no, you can do that. You somehow, you meander, you navigate, you perform with these arts, you can get to a very high ideological moral status. So that's why the 有余义. So that's why you can say, almost you can say that why do people when the 跟着毛氏的 what is it? And that progress from the something in your heart to words, to chanting, dancing, and to singing, because these are actions, artistic expressions, you can move around them and create and reach the Tao. So it's not just a play. Or it is a play, it's a game, but it's a meaningful, important game. It's not just a trivial game, it's a very important game if you use modern theories of game theory. Huh? Okay, so then we'll get, because when you get to Shi Jing, we all read those things, we all know that. So when we engage with Shi Jing and Guanju, we have all these things in our head, because this is part of a cultural history. So what the Confucius say about Guanju is very clear. 乐而不淫，爱而不伤. That's a definite meaning that it has to be pleasurable, but cannot be licentious. So then how is licentious and how is pleasurable? That is really a lot of problem there. But and then you can read it some now. What is a good piece of music? It begins, it's kind of harmonious, and then pure, and then so there is some sense of musical structure, musical development. So these people are very musical, they know what they're talking about. Yeah? And then he says, then even in formal structure, there's a 关雎之乱. Luan is a particular structure in a Chinese composition. So it may be, people say usually say at the end of it is Luan is a little bit more progressive, a little bit more loud, a little bit more agitated. So Liangliang so fills your ears up. So that's why the music, the 乐 can fill you up, but it cannot be licentious. It can be very pleasurable. So, okay, so compare that to the very traditional Han dancing, 后妃之德风之, that's very political. So you can go there. I'm just skipping it a little bit over, okay? Now, Now, with all that, so if you are a musician, you want to engage Guanju, you want to sing it, how would you do it? Then, of course, you look at this Guan, the bird song, at the river, at the bank, and then how the willows, the watercress, and how they flow. And then, because the flow, you see, it's not just the plains flowing, the water flowing. It implies dance movements. When you imply dance movement, you move, it implies a melodic movement. So this text is beautiful. It's very musical too. Huh? So, and then this is actually why it's getting to the point of almost like senses, talking about a young boy thinking about a young girl, can't sleep and turning around back and forth in the bed. It's almost there, but not quite. It's just right. And then, of course, when they get together, then the CHEN and the Dongwu, so it's very musical. So if you're a musician, you want to compose, you can take these hints and compose a lot of music. So later on, I will play you some music example, and I'll ask you, what do you think the composer or composers have done? What musical cues they have learned from the lyrics, or how do they use sounds to demonstrate their musical understanding of the text? Because it's going back and forth all the time, so you want to do that. Okay. Now, we now know that let's theoretically understand what could happen between the text and the sound thing. So let's say that how would the text actually imply yue? So we can do that. It can verbally and semantically describe it. It can describe it. So easily it can make a reference to musical instrument. So if you say CHEN, Zhonggu, so if you know this instrument, you know how these are played, and you know what kind of sound they can make, right? A Zhonggu sound would not be the same as a pipa sound, right? A qin and se sound would not be like a hu sound. So you have, on one hand, it enables you to think about it, but it does limit you somewhat if you accept it. So, but it's very semantic, very clear. But also, by telling you where, when, and how, or who the agencies are making music, it gives you a lot of ideas. Because you read Guanju, it says, you know that, oh, that's a young man thinking about a girl, 谈情是有志，中国乐之. So you say, oh, how would you think about it? How would a young boy use a 情是 to make friends with a girl? I mean, there's somebody here, right? Now you can ask a girl, so if I'm a girl, what kind of song a boy would play to make me happy, right? You would probably not, maybe something love song, maybe some Chopin or something. That's I do this. If a young boy wants to have a date with a young girl, and you take the lady to a good friend's restaurant, you would not be doing a rap music. Some Chopin, some classic. Unless a girl say, hey, I'm a modern girl, don't take me today. I want to rap. I want to go to nightclub. So you have to work that out. So, but the sound, what I'm saying that by referencing who these people are engaging in music, when and where and how, it gives you a lot of things. So if you're a composer, you say, oh, this is for young girl, young man. Maybe hard rock is better, heavy metal, rather than some mental pop. Oh, no, that's 80s style. We don't need that. You want it to be 21st century style. So all these informations are there. Yeah. So that is kind of descriptive semantic. Another level that the words can tell you what the music is about is the linguistic. The guan guan zhu zhou, you can read this, or you can read Cantonese, guan guan zhu zhou. The sound, the rhythm, and you can, if you go back to hear Guanju, you saw da 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 da. You would not say guan guan zhu zhou. No, the lyrics, the Chinese language has given you some kind of rhythmic sense. You have to follow it. If you don't follow it, you destroy the linguistic meaning. So of course, it's a choice. You can ignore it, but usually most people want to save the meaning of the lyrics. They have to follow certain semantics, and That's language and linguistics. You cannot describe. So, and then the Chinese, we all know the word tones. And you cannot say guan guan. You cannot say guan guan. That's wrong. It cannot. You have to follow. And then the enunciation. And then the literary. So we know Guanju is always forward phrase. Da 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 da. You cannot make it da 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 da. No. So there are all this literary, structural, linguistic. It gives you an idea how to make your musical phrase and word phrase. So it's very clear. And then the stanzas. How many 4 lines into one stanza or 8 lines? So you do it because when you say this is one stanza, then you have to think how the melody would begin and how it ends. It has to make a musical unit, like a literary unit. So that's there. And then, of course, it's more important than that is if you're really good in it, you have to know what is the emotion, what is the CHEN that is words and sounds that I want to create with. So you have to grab it. If you read Guanju, you do not know it's a Cheng, it's a love song, then and you say it's purely a political song, then you cannot compose music to it. So it's very difficult. But if you know what this song is about, what kind of emotion is supposed to evoke in you, then it makes all this difference. Okay? Now, if you are more scholarly, then you say, oh, Guanju, if you listen to Guanju in immediate Kongzhi style or before Kongzhi style time, because we know from 春秋左传, we know that Cooing was sung before that time. You can read Han Dynasty, how they were singing it, or Wei Jin time they sing it, or Song time or Qing time. So you can pick your style or pick your sound. Yeah. So these are the songs because they're so canonized, so well studied, so brings with it a lot of cultural message and cultural meaning. So if you want to study that as a one, it has to be a broad sense of one, rather than just 关关雎鸠. Yeah. So that's how the one can give you a lot of meaning. In a way, it's almost like a score. You know, in Western world, in our modern world, we say, what's a score? Give me a score and play on the piano, violin, or whatever. So it tells you the notes and things. But in traditional China, no, they don't need to do that, give you the text. But if you know the melody, you know how to sing it, you know the chant, you can do it almost. So, okay. Now, okay, another theoretical part of it, how this 情, 诗跟文跟乐到 these different levels of manipulations and things get together. So one big theory about it is the wen, the sheng, the wu, the yue, they are all separable, partially. Yue is never just one. You can always say wen is wen, yue is yue. But they can never be totally separate. Wen and sheng, wen is 文字, sheng and sheng yin, you can separate. But sheng yin and 文字 at some point they overlap. So that is the difficult part of, and the fascinating part of Chinese. So think about the yin and yang. So there's yin and yang, they always have to be a pair. You cannot talk about yang without some reference to yin. If you talk about yin with no reference to yang, doesn't make sense. They always kind of overlap and not overlap. So these are the concepts there. Now, 诗, you can say 诗 and 文 are largely verbal, but they actually implies a lot of sound. The one thing that that tells you that if 诗 and 文 are totally replaceable, then you don't need 乐. You only need 文, right? Or if by the words later on quickly, if sheng and yue is only sound, then you don't need wen to explain it. But we know that no. For all wen, you like it, you read it carefully, at some point you get excited and you will begin to chant it. And you will hum it out. So very few people say, 关关雎鸠在敖池中. This is boring. But if you realize that it's a 关关雎鸠, and then you develop it. So it's very natural. So wen and sheng and yue, they overlap. They're separable, but they are never totally separable. it moves very naturally. And so the problem, you can go back from sheng to wen is also the same. Sheng is more sonic and performative. You have to perform it to make the sound. But you always involve to have some wen, because people say, what do you mean by saying like that? Then when you say it means, then you use word and wen to explain it. So sound, you might say, you say, okay, I get it. No, you can't. Yeah. What does that mean? And you always have to use some wen to. Okay. So there is always that kind of things. And then Wu and Dao is actually the very language, it can be more separate, is when we make sound, when actually even when we talk, like me, I like to move my hands and things. If you ask me to talk just straightforward, I feel very uncomfortable. You say, try to talk yourself. No body movement. No, you can't. Well, if you're happy, you're saying, oh, I really so excited, okay, the Western one, give me a hug, I feel so good. But you say, no, totally frozen fish, no movement, it's very impossible. So that's why these different aspects of expressive activities mean they're always together. Okay. And the third part is then theorize. If that's okay, they're so interrelated, can we make some theoretical, say how Chinese people would work out this wen and yue problems? So there are a few ways. One is meaning is emphasizing on the text. So then it just really allows them so the text dominates. Whatever you're saying, whatever you do, very minimal. Right? Or you can make the text sound a little bit more, so the sound becomes indispensable, like the yin song, guan guan ju zhou, da 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 da. So the text and the sound, the rhythm is indispensable, but the text is still the main character. It still dominates. And later on, when we can say some qin ge beautifully composed, then the sound and the text, they're kind of balanced. And actually, if you look at all the good songs, whether it's canto pop or Liu Sheng Ge or whatever, if you really like it, the sound and the text somehow are balancing each other. If it's just beautiful text, but the music sucks, you don't like it. If the melody sounds good, but you don't know what it means, you don't care about it. So it has to somehow balance. And then, of course, when it goes further for the musicians, later on, they can make the sound dominate, the yue dominate, but the text becomes just a reference point. And so many instrumental pieces, qin pieces, you listen, oh my God, that's so beautiful, so passionate. Then you know, what does it mean? Where does it refer to that? It's difficult to say, but it's like the Guanju piece later on, I'll show you. You say, wow, it's so beautiful. You say, what does it say, tell you about the quantum? You can't. I said, but it tells you some kind of courtship, some kind of love. Then you can do that. So there are these four levels. Sound dominates, when dominates, sound comes up a little bit. When and yue kind of balance. And then sound becomes more important. And sound totally takes over. You can have at this range of polarities, you can do whatever. Yeah. Now we have theorized this, and then with these levels, then we can say, okay, how do we analyze it? So I'm using that Mao Shi Da Xu, that progression from Yan, Qing to Yue. So I say then I'll treat each lyric, each performance as a piece of a work, which is problematic because what is a work? Right? But I take it as a unit of analysis. Then I'll ask them, what is the structure of that lyric? What's the structure of that performance, of that musical composition? And what does particular features mean? Why is that sound there? Or why is does that sound refer to that word, that music textual phrase? So I analyze it this way. So basically the question is, it can apply to lyrics or can apply to the year as a performed piece. You can ask, how are they composed? How are they read? How are they performed? And how are they understood and heard? That is all composition is like this, creation, who creates it, who listens to it, who interprets it. And then after you go to that social culture level, you can more structural levels. What does that sound mean? What does that word mean? So it's more structural. But you can do that. And so you get to do that. So I would use that kind of analysis to back and forth, because if you go from yan to yue, that is yan, wen is a cause, sang is an effect or result. So it's cause and effect, right? But you can go back from the cause result to see whether the cause works. So that's why I use back and forth. And then you can also say the sang and yue, because it's life, it becomes a performance. And because of this cause, because if it's when just a lyric written text is more static, but it's performed, then the meanings and the nuance and the emphasis are all more dynamic. So we all know that when you read a piece of poetry as text, just like that, it becomes a little bit flattened now. But if you perform it, read it aloud, then the meaning can be more flexible. And one thing we can do that the performance is different from just textual things. Now, one example I like to say this, if you just read I love you, thematically it's just I love you. Nothing unambiguous, nothing ambiguous about it. But if I don't wish on you, but if someone, let's say a girl talks to a boy, say, I love you. And the boy knows, I know you're going to love me. Do you have that kind of experience? It's a pragmatic theory is that a lot of words, if you understand words literally, that means one thing. But a lot of communication does not mean literal. It's the reverse. I mean, that's the art of performance, right? I hope you don't get that, but that's the reverse. And the music is like that, sometimes it's supposed to be beautiful stuff, but actually it can be gross. It can be, So that's why it's fun. Now, I'm getting to it now. Then I'll give you the most basic, the yue reading of Guanju. You just read it aloud. But so you read it aloud, but using a particular dialect to vocalize the textual structures and tones and things. Now, we do not know how ancient Chinese sang this song. We don't. But we have examples of what modern people sing. Because of the technical problem, I'll go through this and go to the text. So the first is reading aloud. So I'll have prepared a Cantonese version. So I'll go back to it later. And then the next one, I move to the chanting. I have another example. It's very easy. Lots of it on YouTube. So then you can hear the melody, the rhythm is much more elaborate. But it's the same song, same lyrics. And then I have the modern people singing it with a CHEN song, singing it. So simple singing, so the text kind of dominates with even sound comes in. And then the fourth level I'm doing, it becomes a CHEN solo, totally CHEN solo. And then the question is, how does that CHEN instrumental sound becomes a one rendition realization, yeah? Now, maybe it's kind of, I'm running a little bit late. So later I'll just go you to see this, the manuscript, or I can give you. So if you go through the score, because now CHEN music performance in Chinese is also very fascinating, is you cannot just take a score and read it totally. So the CHEN music is called Da Pu. You beat the CHEN notation into shape, into what you want it to be. That's called Da Pu. So notation in Chinese culture is not just read and playing dang, dang, dang. If it's that simple, we don't need musicians, we just need robots. But the CHEN music is the performance, it's very dynamic, very rich, so you have to read it. So at the point I'll give you example is, if you listen to it later on, you will hear the CHEN sound, certain sound is dang, da, dang. is very plucking the string, and sometimes it's one string, and sometimes two string, a fifth, bang, or the octave, bang, and then there are lots of very specific sounds, dun, 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 dun. All these CHEN sounds, they're very meaningful. It's, in a way, it's like, if you know Western music, it's almost like chord structures. This is a dominant chord, it's a tonic chord, it's a 5 chord. So these sounds give you a structural, semantic meaning. It's not just a sound. It's a powerful, meaningful sound. I mean, in a way, it's like if you listen to a concert, a guitar concert, the guy says, bang, that means something. Or you go, dang, that means something. So sounds are meaningful in a way that's not meaningful as words, but they are meaningful. So I'll do that. And at the end, I'll give you two modern versions. One is so-called ancient style. They use chime bells to play it in an old, supposed to be very ancient time, but of course that is really recreated. And then I also give you a version of a Chinese new composition on Guanju with piano and singing a soprano. I mean, you say, my God, would Confucius come up on the ground and curse it? And I don't know, but if you use modern years to hear, hey, that's beautiful. So you can do that. So, okay, now, so basically then I'll save all, let's go to the music part, and then we'll come back to the final conclusion, and then we have discussion. I'll give you, each example, I'll give you some, one, can we play music now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's try. So we have to.
No, I'll use this then don't use that, that's easy. Now this is the Cantonese reading aloud, Guanju.
We have to unmute.
It's okay, just unmute. This is unmute now.
Oh, mute?
Yeah.
關關雎鳩，在河之洲。窈窕淑女，君子好逑。參差荇菜，左右流之。窈窕淑女，吾未求之。求之不得，吾未思服。悠哉悠哉，輾轉反側。
You hear that? Yaozhai, suddenly is make reading it a little bit more sound, more meaningful. So in musical way of saying, that is really a tonal painting. Because the word meanings is yaozhai, yaozhai, kind of wheeling, flipping back and forth. That's why suddenly yaozhai, yaozhai. So that little bit quavering. So you see the sound is mimicking, using sound to demonstrate the semantic meaning. So that is what I call reading aloud. And you know that in the traditional Chinese education, people don't read silently. Especially in Chinese 小学, they ask the kids to memorize music by chanting, by reading it like that. So that is very basic, very traditional way of vocalizing what I call yuing of the text. Now, then this is more traditional, this is more chanting.
传统吟诗调，《诗经》周南关雎，王福汉先生传调。
So you see,
关
there's a
关
particular
雎鸠，在河之洲。窈窕淑女，君子好逑。
So the
参
melody, the
差
tones are
荇菜，
exaggerated.
左右流之。窈窕淑女，寤寐求之。求之不得，寤寐思服。犹在犹在，辗转反侧。
Then you get a lot, there's a lot more meaning than just a yojai. So it's because the sound communicates that kind of meaning and the sound adds to it. And you can say that this brings out these guys reading the emotional response to the music. So it's just like the Mao Dashi says, if you have meaning in your heart, you have feeling in your heart, you sing it, chant it out. So if that's I mean, I think that's very expressive already. But if you say that's not expressive enough, so you can do further, what will you do? You sing it. So you can do it, sing it in more way now. Next one, I'm going to use an example. This guy is reconstructing it from a Ming Dynasty score from 1491. So the tones are there, but he would not sing it, but just played it. Yeah, what's good? Yeah. How does stop? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Testing. Now, so, let's go through it. Maybe I close this one. Is it better? Testing. Is it same? Maybe try again now. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Seems okay now. Yeah. So if that song, you can see that he did not sing the text, but actually there is a text he could have sung it. But then besides singing it, because you're playing with an instrument, so you cannot just do singing and playing one by one. That would be too boring. So when you sing that, use an instrument, then you would add some middle sound. Or so you use the musical instrumental sound to articulate your singing a little bit. So that's very common. So that's what happened. Okay. Now, let's move on to give you the full example of a CHEN instrumental performance of the Guanju play. So I'll play this a little bit longer, and then I'll let you listen to what are the sounds that keep repeating and how does the sounds make you feel the Guanju, the passion, the structure. And let's see if we can do that. Okay. I'll leave this. Okay. I'll leave the plan. You can go to the YouTube or you can access it. But if you go back and listen to this CHEN song, you can hear this CHEN piece. It has a lot of very specific sounds. And later on, we don't have time now. So, but later on, trust me, you can go analyze it and see how this repeated sounds kind of echoes the repeated text in some way. And what I find is performance most magical is mostly is playing the song. And if you know CHEN music and know the song, you know that certain songs are really evocative of the chanting, but it's purely instrumental. But suddenly in the middle of the piece, she would sing only one verse of it in a very Hangzhou dialect. Guan is really lyrical. Suddenly I think it's very, very magical. But that tells you how the song from Wen and Yue, when they blend in each other, kind of almost balanced. So that powerful of emotion and expression is very powerful. So I have to wrap it up, the time is getting out. So what I'm arguing is that if you analyze this complex of CHEN songs, Guanju, you can really see that these Chinese Wenyan literature, they really mean what they say. They really listen to the Shi Da Xu. They really practice it from the Yan, Qing to the Shang, the Ge, the Wu. It's very, very clear. What is not so clear is they make it very logical, one step, one way. If you analyze the song, it's not that simple, sometimes going back and forth. The Wen and the Yue is not directly one way. It goes back and forth, and sometimes it can go a detour. So that makes it very powerful, makes it effective, because you can see that they are using their memory of the Wen as text, the memory of Wen as culture and history, to really using sound to demonstrate the understanding and making it expressing themselves. So it's really powerful performance and discourse. And also because it's all anchored by text. So people know exactly what you're talking about rather than just beautiful sound. What do you mean? Then you can argue, but no, it's Guanju, Confucius says this, so it's very easy. There's a firm big ground to negotiate. And that's why I think Chinese Yue is so powerful and meaningful for people, at least for people who know it. So that's why I think these kind of aesthetics, theory, and experience is so Chinese on one hand, but at the same time, it's very, very meaningful. A lot of Chinese song cultures, people always sing. Only in the 19th century, Western Europe, Paris and Berlin, they use more instrumental music. So that actually is a very distinctive culture. So in order now, we want to analyze how people make music with words and sound. I would say, actually, Confucius gave us a very good model. Why don't we use it a little bit more and work out a good model, what I call it, a Confucius model of writing global music. And that's what I'm working on. So thank you. Now, questions.
Very much. Thank you, Professor Lam, for this wonderful talk. And actually, this is quite new for me because I knew very little about CHEN music. So when you play CHEN music, I'm just wondering, oh, what's the meaning of the music actually? So maybe you can tell us more about the music itself. We have about 20 minutes for discussion. So maybe anyone who want to ask questions? Oh, yeah.
Thanks a lot, Professor Lam. So yeah, I just have a general feeling.
Okay,
that,
good.
To understand how the text and the music, they kind of blend as you suggested. I'm just wondering, in addition to this kind of holistic understanding, because for me, for example, how the music can goes well with the text, for me is something that, for example, whether the falls and rise and fall of the melodic marking goes with, for example, the lexical tones of the lyrics. This sort of kind of very specific, I mean, analysis kind of. So I mean, whether it goes in that direction or something else.
That is a very good question.
Sorry to interrupt. So also for the rhythm part. So for example, if the music's rhythmic pattern can goes with the, I don't know, the syllable time, the stress time, you know, there is a rhythm in language also. So is that kind of a specific analysis that we can have?
You can do that, absolutely, because you can say if you decide that you are singing these lyrics in Cantonese, modern Cantonese, then you have used 9 tones. So if you sing the melody, you sing the Guanju text in Cantonese, creating a melody that goes against the linguistic tones, then people would say you trying to 导音. It sounds awful. You cannot do that. And if you also the rhythm is 关关追焦, you have to both mostly follow that. You cannot say 关追焦, no. So, but that kind of sense of rhythm and music, I would call it verbal musicality. So if you using that kind of paradigms of textures to analyze a CHEN song, a very fascinating CHEN song, you cannot go far. Because when it gets to the yue part, the really sounds-dominant part, you cannot use linguistic tones, linguistic rhythm to analyze it. So at that point, the composer, the performer would have to go to the music logic of it. So that's why it goes from the wen musicality to the yue musicality. So if you are listening to a piece which is really more in the yue category, and you use one paradigm to analyze it, it doesn't get too far. So that's why I'm saying that the Mao Shi Da Xu is very clear, logical, but it's too clear in a sense. It's too theoretical. When you try to analyze it, it's not that simple. It goes back and forth. And if you analyze a lot of music, Chinese music, a lot of them, sometimes they don't follow the linguistic tone so like a slave. And actually, that's the art of good Chinese singing, is somehow they make you feel you're following the tone, but somehow actually the melody going. And actually in Quanju, you can see that art. So the melody, like the qu sheng, is da, right? But if you, every melody you sing that qu, it would be very boring. So the Quanju will be say da, qu. It go up, down first and go up. So there are all these ways to make it musically elusive of the lexical tone, but different from the lexical tone. And that is where the art is. So you cannot use one level, you have the two. Yeah.
Thanks.
It's really fascinating. Go analyze it. It's really fascinating.
我想问一下，线上的就是我们观众提问的时候，你们听得到问题吗？要不然近一点点来提问。
阿胜一点吧。
对。
Thank you for this fascinating seminar, I think. First of all, I want to share something I learned from the late Professor Kwong Kin Hung.
Okay.
He taught us that Guan 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 Zoigo should be pronounced and Guak Guak.
Yeah.
So it is onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
So I find it very fascinating because it sounds pretty much the same as the English word quack. So
Yeah.
so yeah.
Because it's supposed to be imitation.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the question that I have for you is a bit pedantic, I think, because I want to know how representative that you think the Mao Zedong how much it represents the view of Confucius, because I also study that quite in my dissertation. So I noticed that adopt the model of Yue Ji in the Li Ji. So it extends from the model of Yin and Sheng, and by adding the third element, the Wen, into this people will go on to say it's a trinity. So this three, the Shi, the Yue, and then and then but if that is the case, the Da Xu could only be written around early Han. I think it could not be the something transmitted from Zhixia. So with this assumption, what do you think about that? How representative is that of not just Confucian, maybe the whole Confucian school ideology of music?
Yeah. It's a question that has tortured me quite. So, but now I tell you my solution. So it depends whether you're asking the question as a historical question. If it's a historical question, is what did Confucius do? Then at least from objective history, that there's only one version, even at specific times. So maybe we say, when Confucius was young, he sang it this way. He worked quack quack or something, however you pronounce it. So that's one historical truth. So if you want to understand that question, find out that, then it is a historical question. So there's only one truth, one objective truth. But if you say, no, since it's too difficult for me and I don't have enough verifiable data, so I'm not going to ask the question as a historical question, but I will ask it as a cultural person. Then I say, if what is cultural is meaning when a lot of people at a specific time on, they say that is true and that they subscribe to it, that becomes the truth. It's a cultural and relative truth. So if they say, okay, I'm asking this question as a cultural memory, or cultural ideological memory, then I say, probably after Mao Shi was standardized from later Han on, then probably they would not say quack quack. Or at least say from 19th century, mid 1850 on, in Cantonese people, they probably would quack quack. They just say guan guan. So if I ask that question in a cultural, social point of view, then I can use a cultural, social answer, and that is valid. So I say, I ask this question as the 19th century Cantonese version. Then I say, it has to be guan guan. So that's how I get out of that problem. Otherwise, you cannot get out of it. It's really difficult.
Well, but then how it's because different culture and different languages would have different ways to describe the sound of an animal.
Yeah.
Like a dog barking, you may say wang wang in Putonghua, but it's wo 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 in Cantonese, and so it's hard to make any direct association between that word and the actual pronunciation of that bird.
But you see, that's why you don't ask it as a specific historical question. You ask it as a cultural, ideological question. Right. So if that's to say that for bird, then it's a boom, that's one. Or like use a cat. All Cantonese people will say Mao is a meow meow. They will say wow wow that's not cat sound. But ask you say, what kind of cat you're talking? Do they really say meow meow? No, no cat will really say meow meow, right? So, but that's why you have to get out of it. I mean, you use a cultural, ideological interpretation of it, right? So otherwise, we'll argue, who are you? Which sound are you trying to construct? And then it becomes a never-ending question. You have to stop it somewhere.
If not, you need to go back to old Chinese phonology.
Yeah. And I'm not interested in I'm not an archaeologist, so I'm more interested in how modern Chinese, at least from Song Yuan, at least more like Ming and Qing, or people, how would they pronounce it? Then, of course, you will Zhuxi's version. And if I'm saying that I am a Cantonese, so I use Cantonese, or nowadays people use Mandarin, so I would say, I would just use this, see how the general Mandarin speaking Chinese would read it. So that's my solution, because my argument is no matter how you do it, one kind of people at a specific time and place can only read it in one specific way, right? Cantonese would not read in 1850. Cantonese would only read guan guan, but not read it quack quack, right? So that's the only way to. That's my way of getting out of it, but it's a very tough question to ask.
我想要讲一点我的，就是你今天谈到的这个文字跟音乐跟发音之间的关系。因为我想到，就是你刚也提到昆曲，我想到两个很妙的例子，就是这个《西厢记》里面讲这个莺莺，因为它的名字叫莺莺，然后它有一段就是讲琴声演奏，然后它用的就是什么冷冷叮叮嘤嘤铃铃，不听一聲猛經，就它用的这个音就配得很漂亮，所以我觉得这是一个文字、声音跟这个配得很好的一个例子。然后你讲到那个昆曲的音乐，我也想到那个《牡丹亭》里面很有名的折剑，风月暗消磨。折剑是一个虚拟词，但是它在昆曲后来发展到很艺术性的时候，他用了一个安腔，就这紧。他的演员，我不会唱，不好意思，演员在唱的时候会一声感叹折剑。因为他是突然之间看到春天那个时间流逝，所以他的那个折剑，他在安腔的时候，刚这对，停一下，感叹一下，我就觉得确实是一个，
就是这个节奏，
对，
断音，
一声感叹，他那个音是这样转调的，就非常好的一个例子，所以我就觉得很有意思。我有一个关于今天就是因为刚刚你给我们放了很多版本。然后你有提到说这个文字可能会如何，就跟音乐。可是我就在想，音乐的演奏本身是我们的一种理解，对不对？我要做什么曲，用什么风格，用什么 melody。我刚刚在听那个吟唱的版本的时候，我感觉它很民歌体。
对。
然后你给我们放古琴的时候，古琴我不是听得很懂，但是古琴的感觉是比较雅的，对不对？所以它好像是比较靠近孔子，或者我们常常讲这个《诗经》，好像是要有那样的一种 virtual 啊等等。我觉得它是比较儒家化的，像您讲的，它的音乐。可是《关雎》应该是一个民歌，对不对？假如
我觉得这个不一定是民歌，这个不，因为我们不知道那个民歌是怎么唱。可是你可以说那个声音跟明清以来的情歌的声音是很相似的，所以你听了这个声音就特别是跟现在我们一般听到的流行歌的声音都有点不同，它就让你因为就是有一个 distance。让你知道这个声音不是现在的声音，都让你感觉你回到以前。其实那个是 imaginary time。
你讲的 distance 是古琴的，
对古琴，因为它的声音跟现在的声音有点不同，所以它用声音把你拉到一个你不熟悉的那个 soundscape。那么你就很感觉到这个 soundscape， 因为我不认识它，我就以为它是明的、清的。其实那个究竟是不是明星我们不知道。 也
但但是
不一定
古群在谱这一些
嗯
诗经的时候，会不会比较雅化？
对，都是雅化，
都是比较雅化
可是
那我
什么时候的雅是就不同了。
我们比如说在讲文跟音乐的时候，有多大的，就像你讲的那个光谱，
嗯
哪一种音乐占主导还是文字占主导？那谱音乐的人有多大的自由度可以去做这个
所以
interpretation？
我给你听一个，现在这个颜色很雅，现在我给你这个版本是现在是最流行，人家觉得他只是把关雎的这个五乐的韵味完全拉出来，也是很现代，就是这个版本。所以你可以，我就让你听，你觉得是怎么样，是吧？对，这个就是个很漂亮的那个女生，上面有钢琴伴奏的。
对了，它到底最后用的是哪一个？
而且中国笛子
是没有 share，
它不是用 share 的，
清楚应该是
是我们很熟的钢琴声音吗？
Hi, Professor Lam, and thank you for this wonderful talk. I'm a master student at UC Berkeley, and I'm currently writing my thesis on a zither book on the Guqingpu, from a late imperial China. And I really enjoy this discussion about zither chanting and how poetry is incorporated into Guqing. And in fact, I've been playing Guqing for many years since middle school time. And I have a brief question about this. I'm sorry, are we playing music currently? I just saw the chat box.
没有 share，
那就算了，
我们就算
你同佢哋其實最知道緊邊個做一個主要嘅。
有点轴。
对呀，
要不然对
这就算吧。
对，
所以其实这个版本现在是非常流行，很多这个音乐学院的学生要毕业典礼唱一个古曲的时候就用这个版本。所以作为一个21世纪音乐学院的中国音乐家的想象的比较古代的就是这样的样子。是作为一个历史家，音乐历史家是，这个是绝对是很西方，这个不可能是孔子的声音。所以，可是现在他们想象就是这样。所以你看，所以这个是这个乐，它是有这个感情，是同样的，可这个声音是变得很厉害。所以就是这样。所以因为现在你可觉得为什么你这个就是说 it's ironic， 就是说你要是用孔子的，如果我们知道孔子的思想的时候，听这样的一个字这么多音，就绝对是太 licentious， 太复杂了，绝对不可能的。可是我们现在呢，就是能把声音出来，所以这个就是孔子听应该是乐而不淫。这个我用我孔子的儿子去，这个是不太乐还是很淫？这个淫就是太多复杂的，因为他是把这个声音的旋律绝对是高举，把这个字的意思全都压得很低。因为他是这个现代的作曲家，那个钢琴这个和声，那个女高音就表现了女高声的演唱的技巧，所以绝对是 licentious。
我可以补充一点点，就是刚刚说到这个雅俗的问题，在情歌里头有它的传统，是一字一音为之雅，但是有些人觉得那个太难听了，有些人觉得。那么有一派的情歌是一字可以牵很多音出来，但是有人家认为这就是淫，所以这是在应该乾隆时期也是吵得很厉害的一个问题。对，然后刚刚Joseph 所播的那个应该是徐小莺的打谱，对，所以是他的演绎，所以那个版本也不是明清时期的版本，实际上是徐小莺自己的演绎，
他已经比较顺耳。
对，只是按照他的处理去让我们听得顺一点。但我好奇的是，比如说关雎这个谱子有没有是非打谱的，是诗章传下来的？
对，关雎最早的谱是1220出版的，在朱熹的《伊礼中卷精巧》就是那个谱子。
但是那个谱有没有人演奏？就是它的传承不是现代，比如说不是吴景略，不是徐小莺他们打谱。
有人是跟这个叮叮叮叮的，这都是有的。
OK，
可是那个用现代耳朵听就不好听。Yeah， 那是没办法。Yeah， 是有的。Yeah， 所以很多人都。其实一个乐谱很清楚的，一个拿这个声音在钢琴叮叮的，就觉得哎呀很难听。可是你要是用真的，我不要用现代的人的耳朵去听，就是我要走到800年以前南宋的时候怎么样？其实那个时候朱熹已经说了，应该古乐没有这么难听吧？朱熹已经这样说的了。对吧？
清代也是的，毛其林也有这个，就是如果这么难听，如何导我的兴趣？
对，他们因为他说这个是这么感情、怎么动人的这个真情的，不可能是这样当。可是里面也有个很奇怪的，你要是问很多非常感情的歌，特别是有一点仪式圣的。神的与这个非人的感情的歌，很多是一个字一个音，比如是 Gregorian chants， 就是 CO 的，它是 Korea 就是很，比如说一个字一个 new 那个 new 的，然后所以，然后比如说这个 Protestant 这16世纪的基督教也是这。当 chorus 都是一个字一个音，因为原画的通常就觉得是有一点不太神圣的，就是这个全世界都是这样。
So we have we open another 2 questions. So we have question from the audience online. 是不是有一位观众你想要问题？你可以开你的麦克风。有吗？
这个 CHEN
对 CHEN 的好，你把麦you can ask.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you try again.
Yeah.
Can you try again?
Yeah. Can you hear me and speaking?
Yes.
Yes.
And thank you, Professor, for this wonderful talk. My name is Anne. I'm a current student at UC Berkeley studying Chinese music. And my current project is on Qingpu, it's called 枯木禅 Qingpu. And I really appreciate this talk and about textuality and musicality, and especially because I've been playing music and guting for a long time. And so here's the very interesting and perennial debate about 有词无词说, that whether the chanting comes first, or is that rather we have pure music first that is purely instrumental, and that is the lyrics are rather added later. And it's by Qing Dynasty, this debate also, and as Professor was just saying about Zhu Xi, who think that by that 一字一弹, attaching each character to each tone is a rather mechanical way. And I wonder what Professor Lam is thinking about this relationship between 词 and music.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
I can give you some hypothetical answers and broad answers, because if you want to have specific and definitive answer, you really talk definitive cases. But if you look based on available and datable notation, and given I'm asking the question from when it begins, then I would say that obviously the song Liangliang, because it was supposed to be a folk song, so I would say that maybe in the very beginning when people would start singing it, then there was really not a problem of which comes first. Probably the words and the music, the melody will come the same time, because that's what folk songs would be. Now, but by the time Confucius codified the text, then probably becomes textualized. The melody became forgotten or something. But then a lot between Confucius' time and Song Dynasty and the Zhuxi's time, there were more chanting, reading aloud of the text than instrumental playing of it. At least we don't have the score about it, so we cannot say there was the music. So I would argue that between Confucius' time, say from the end of Chun Qiu up to Song, when Wu Yuan, those people were actively reconstructing Shi Jing, that I would say is the text always come before the melody. But after that, when Song Dynasty were trying actively reconstruct the music, then there may be some standardized melody. After that, because Zhuxi is so powerful and the 以理通经卷通晓 the notation was so canonic, a lot of scholars, CHEN players, when they sing this, they would refer back to that version. So from that time on, then you can say the melody as notated in that 以理精准通晓 those or 教言属全十二风雅诗经谱 that notation becomes ahead of a lot of singing. So that's the only way I can answer. So, but it's really again a question very difficult to ask. So good luck working on them.
Thank you.
Will that be okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have last questions. Anyone want to ask?
Yeah.
Can I speak Chinese?
是
刚刚您提到那个一字一音和古琴音乐的问题，然后我想到一字一音之所以是雅乐，会不会是因为它可以最好的表达意义？就像老师刚刚有讲这个音乐结构和语言表达结构的共性，特别是在《诗经》的四言句里面，确实是二二这样的节奏能够更好的表达意义，所以用一字一音这样的方式，它其实是可以对应，比如说我们音乐中的二四拍或者七四拍这个样子，同时也能够用最稳重的音乐上的风格来表达这样的音乐。然后我还想问一个小问题，也是跟音乐和它的语言表达有关的，就是我们刚刚讲到说音乐结构和语词结构它们的统一是一个是个普遍的规律。但是在实际表现中，特别是在中国的歌唱啊，还有在古琴音乐的演奏中，它不是按照非常标准的节拍类型，不是像钢琴音乐一样是可以一个键盘一个键盘一个音一个音那样对应的。那也就是说，古人在唱这些音乐的时候是有他们发挥的表演空间。那么像这样子的表演空间对应的声音信息，可以通过用书面文字的方式流传下来吗？如果不能够流传的话，他们又是通过怎样的方式来保存这样的诗经音乐的呢？
你的问题很多，所以基本我是可以这样答，就是基本是从一个音乐风格节奏来说，从这个宏观来说是这样的，一字一音是有它的比较平静、比较安定，这个有这个典雅的感觉这个是可以这样说的。可是正是到了演出的时候，其实那个即兴也要是怎么表演的空间其实很大的，就是像古琴一样，你古琴这几个字一个字，好像是没有节奏，你要是每个字都定一拍，那是很比较机械性的 robotic。可是就是这个问题就是，所以就是刚才我说， 这个文跟乐的关系是有重叠，可以有分不开，就是谱是永远不能完全把音乐的节奏旋律完全说清楚的，总有不同，那个文字不能说的。要是文字能完全的把声音这个是说出来，就不用唱了，是吧？所以总有每个人唱每个人的时候都有一点点不同。还有就是你想这个问题，什么是一个字一个音？一个音是怎么算？有时候你要是用个机械这个 computer 就当那个你的一个 sound frequency 就当，其实就没有这个声音的。一个音就总是哒，里面很多振动。你用 computer 看，一个音是这个是 theoretical concept， 一个音是死板的这个没有的，就是你这大，这个从这个 physical 那个 attack 跟 decay 都已经不同，所以每个声音就都是 composite。所以你这样问一个字一个音，他们说的一个字是什么意思？就是其实说可能是一个音就是一个主音，旁边前的后的有很多，这样里面有很多这样的问题的。所以就我的看法就是他们要宏观来说，他们一个字一个音是比较用这个比较心理上身体上的比较安静的古典的声音来说，其实他们到底是怎么样唱怎么唱，只是里面是有一点空间的，不是绝对的很死板的一个字一个音，不是这样理解，是有很灵活的部分。
林教授，我想提个题外话。刚才您开始的时候提到文人，我想请问您，文人等不等于知识分子？假如他们两者之间不同的话，你可以给我们解说一下吗？或者假如文人就等于知识分子，假如是啥，您可以给我们解说一下吗？
其实这个问题我在有考虑，文人跟知识分子这个我觉得是这么一个大的宏观来说是不好说的。所以你说的文人是哪一个朝代的文人？
就是说您刚才开始说的那意思了。
所以比如说现在古琴很多时候用的文人，他们现在古琴界里面很多是文人，其实他们的文人是比较有文化，喜欢追求所谓古代音乐的这样的有文化有艺术追求的人，他们的定义我觉得是这样理解。也是有知识分子，也是从20世纪的知识分子，就为国为民忧民忧国的这样的文人是20世纪那样的文人，我觉得一般的文人，古琴的文人不是那一类的，他们没有的，是吧？I'm sorry， 对，所以这个文人这个文人，我们中国人就是很喜欢这个人，都觉得很雅，就是非常 simplify， 就总是要把这个我是文人，就把自己这个身份的抬高。其实我觉得这个是很有问题的。那你要是有知识分子，那是 intellectual， 就是英文的20世纪的是从那个中国那个国家的那个很重要，这个胡适啊什么，那他们是要怎么改良中国文化，什么的，这样的是 ideological political， 这个不是文人，这个不是。
谢谢李教授，谢谢。
Okay, thank you, Professor Lam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, the friends online.
Thank you.
Okay, so wish you enjoy the Happy New Year and see you next.